Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for another cruise with Big Smooth. Hope y'all are doing okay, having a decent enough Easter given the current state of things as far as travel restrictions and things like that. We just did our Easter Sunday service. That's why I'm in a suit jacket. I don't get too fancy. I still wore blue jeans. But we did our Easter Sunday live stream service, which is just weird because anyone that goes to church knows that Easter Sunday is typically the most packed Sunday service you'll ever find. And it was 5 or 6 of us there, I think, total. Yeah. So, just this whole time is just different. It's drizzling out a little bit today, so we did an Easter egg hunt for my kids and my sister's kids yesterday. We didn't have anybody over that hasn't been over in the past 14 days, which has only been my sister and her kids because the daycares are closed, and so my mom's watching them. It's just, I tell you, this has just been one of the more interesting times to be alive and see humanity adapt. I want to say something that happened in my state over the past 7 days. I don't know the exact timeline, but the mayor of one of the larger cities here, he was going to issue an order to local police in that area to drive by church parking lots and get license plate numbers for people that were doing drive-in services, and either attempt to shut them down or mandate that they go into 14-day isolation to let whatever they caught run its course. And he caught a lot of flack for that, so much so that the state attorney general said that he couldn't do that because if drive-thrus at restaurants are open, if curbside pickup at restaurants is open, and liquor stores in my state are open, so long as people going to a drive-in church service are observing all the proper protocols for social distancing, there's no reason why churches should be treated any different. And I thought that was delicious. Separation of church and state is real. But I thought that was pretty interesting to see someone get shot down by an attorney, to see a mayor get shot down by the state attorney general. I enjoyed reading that article. I tell you what, oh, by the way, I don't know what day yet, but one day next week I am going to be going on my buddy Danny's show. I'm no expert, don't know when it's going to be posted, but I'll try to post links in the description somewhere when we post a video, or when he posts the show. It's possible we could even have a third chair at some point when we record. I don't know. He recently got into a dating relationship with a woman, and I mentioned that if she wanted to, she could sit in third chair and kind of be another opinion on the show, because Danny and I disagree on a lot of things. So I just think it'd be interesting, if we keep the same kind of level-headed discussion, why not? I'd enjoy it. So, I've seen on the internet about COVID-19 a ton of conspiracy theories. One of them, someone actually pulled up, and I didn't fact check any of their research. I took it at face value, but one of the things that I found, it showed that every generation that mobile data has gone up. Okay, so you've got 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G now. 5G is just generation, so it's 5th generation, 4th generation, etc. One of the things that I saw on one of these conspiracy sites is that this is a genetically engineered, that COVID-19 is a genetically engineered virus that was triggered with 5G internet, and that's why it started in China, because China is actually the most 5G rich country in the world at this point, to my understanding. They've got the most 5G towers and 5G cell signal. But and someone pulled up the timeline, like, okay, mobile data came out this year, this virus was a thing, the 2G came out this year, this virus came out, 3G came out, and so on. So they created a timeline for all the different generations of mobile data and all these viruses that came out in a correlating timetable. I don't know if it's true. It sounds about right. I don't know. I was not the first one on the mobile data bandwagon, I can tell you that. So I didn't get mobile data till about 2009, 10, I think. So it could be, but I don't know if wireless data signals and certain genetic codes can be activated via wireless data signals. I don't know. I'm no genius, but the conspiracy theorists are definitely talking right now. I lean more towards, if I were to have to pick a conspiracy theory to buy into right now, it's that coronavirus may not end up being much, if any, worse than the seasonal flu, which there's evidence that says that it may be no worse, and there's evidence that says it could be way worse. The thing is, we do not have a full data set yet. Right now, we can pick a year and look back over the flu statistics. You know, how many were hospitalized with it, how many were in critical care, how many died from it, and how many reported cases there were. You know, just people that were feeling under the weather and they went to the doctor, got a flu test. Yes, you've got the flu. Here, take some Tamiflu and you're better. You know, all that, we can look at that data year by year. Well, as far as we're aware, this is the first year of coronavirus, so we're looking at it with a very incomplete data set, because there's a lot of people that have it that have not been tested. Our preacher's daughter-in-law, she has a great deal of the symptoms, but she has not been tested. As of his most recent update, they're a state away from each other, so he's not as in the loop as he'd like to be. But anyway, his daughter-in-law went to the hospital where she's at last night, and they sent her to some place to go get tested because they couldn't handle her at the hospital. And so they're sending her off to the hospital to get tested. But the conspiracy theory that I think is most likely to be true is that the government cracking down on everything from suggestions to mandates is simply a way of testing how far they can push their tyranny without pushback. My opinion. I think that's the one that makes the most sense. They seized an opportunity that they found with coronavirus that, well, we don't really know a lot about it, so, and, okay, the video that I put up, what will we think in 3 years? Will all this have been worth it? Will all this have been justified? I don't know. There's a distinct possibility it'll go either way. And there's also a distinct possibility that I'm wrong, because I'm wrong a lot. Ask my wife. But, I think that the government sees this opportunity. Some corrupt people, some tyrants in waiting, and I think that a lot of them are going to seize this opportunity to see, well, if we can get away with all this and no one does anything, there might be a little bit of protest or a little bit of bad memes on social media about us, but if that's all, so what? I think that's the most likely conspiracy right now. I think that's the one that's most widespread, and the one that wouldn't take a ton of people to be hush-hush and this and that. My opinion, could be wrong, but I don't think that coronavirus was activated by the release of 5G. I think that the explanation of someone eating bats that was not Ozzy Osbourne is far more likely. Rumor has it that New York is nearing the peak of their coronavirus cases. I was listening to a good deal of news on Friday. I was outside hustling, and rumor has it that a good deal or that they're at their peak. The numbers are slowing drastically in their climb, so New York could start seeing a let up in all this. But the thing that they're uncertain of is if a second wave of outbreak hits when people are allowed to go back toward a more normal standard of living. We don't know if that's going to happen. We don't know if this virus is going to be seasonal. I do know that in Texas, there's not near the amount of virus as what there is in New York and the more northern states, and there's speculation that it's that there's more acreage per capita in Texas than there is in New York. New York City is in terrible shape right now by comparison to Dallas, and that's just because you've got so many people packed in. Same with LA. LA's in way better shape, and there's a ton of factors that could be contributing to that, from climate to population density per acre of land to, all sorts of things. So we don't really know what's causing these differences in the numbers in various big cities. We don't know if it's weather or just social distance built into the architecture of it. Case in point, New York, high-rises are a big thing. High-rise apartments, high-rise condos, things like that. You don't see that in Houston. So people in and out of the same elevator, everybody that rode that elevator was at least exposed to it, likely. So we don't really know the cause to it. I gotta stop and put gas in this. I will be right back. So, pausing. I tell you, folks, driving a little 3-cylinder car sure does pay off sometimes. Granted, never when you want to go places in a hurry. But I just filled up my car, getting 40 miles to the gallon. I had just over a quarter tank of fuel, and it cost me $9. And I had gone almost 300 miles on that tank of fuel, and I still had 150 miles of range left. I don't like running it that low. And I was driving past the closest gas station, or the cheapest gas station that's relatively close to my house, that's on the way home from church. So filled up for like $9. And the most expensive this car has ever been to fill up was when I was driving back and forth to work all the time. I ran it like almost empty. I think I had like 10-12 miles worth of range left in the tank, and I don't normally do that. I just want to see how far I could actually get, and it cost me $30, and I'd gone over 400 miles. So it's cheap to drive. But anyway, that's the conspiracy that I think is most likely, is people trying to figure out what kind of abuses of government power they could get away with right now, and maybe trying to lean in a little more towards that once things go back to normal. I don't know. Could be wrong. I really hope that I am. I really hope that I am. I don't think that seeing a government go tyrannical would be a great thing to witness, no matter what state you're in, because I think there would be enough people that would stand up against it, because we have before, and it was ugly. It was very ugly. Anyway, enough about that. On to other stuff. So I'm sure you've seen this button. This is for a friend of mine that passed away about 4 months ago now, I guess. He died the week before Christmas 2019 in a car accident. Bad rain, hydroplaned, died. He played with us in the worship team, and he liked to big finish every song. You know, the big drum fill, the whole band just strumming on that one chord for a second. That was his thing. And so we got big finish buttons made up, and everybody wore their big finish button the day of his funeral, and the for several Sundays following that. Wore my suit jacket to church today, and I didn't even realize that I left it on it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna wear my big finish button today. Too young to not be here. He was 17, real good kid. Hope everybody's staying safe, staying sane. You know, one of the things that really proves, in my opinion, that there are very little honest conversations in politics and in the media and whatnot, as soon as you start talking about wanting to get people back to work, it's always, oh, well, you're putting money ahead of lives. No, I'm putting lives in the calculation too. I was blessed enough and fortunate enough to be in about the best situation I've been in financially in the past 6 months when all this happened. So I had a little bit of money in the bank. My wife had just gotten a good job. She's currently an essential employee, as I've said before. So I was in about the best situation to be. If I had to pick when we were going to go on this lockdown and everything else, this would be it for me. There are a lot of people that are not in this situation. When people lose jobs, when people lose income, when people lose financial security and are getting on the phone with landlords, utilities, collectors, whatnot, it is stressful. I've been there. When my wife and I first got together and married, I was on a bill collector. I was on first name basis with a couple of them, and I never saved their phone numbers. I knew who was calling as soon as I seen the number. I've been there, and it is no fun. And a lot of people will turn to substance abuse during that time. That kind of stress does increase the suicide rate. So just because you're talking about returning back to work and letting people make money and whatnot, you're not devaluing the lives that you can save via social distancing and whatnot. You're trying to actually value more lives, because the people that are healthy, or maybe even have already had this thing, which is a distinct possibility, and want to go back to work and want to make money, you're putting them in a very tough mental situation. And so you could have someone come out on the other side of this with any number of substance abuse problems, or worse. I'd say if we don't get 90 to 95% of people back to work in a meaningful way by the end of May, you're going to start seeing suicides. That's my opinion, and I hope I'm wrong if that happens. I really hope I'm wrong, but if you don't figure out how to get 90% of people back to work, I have a prediction that you're going to see an uptick in suicides among those that were in the low to middle working class and didn't have a ton of money in the bank or weren't well invested enough to live off of that for an extended period of time. That's my opinion, and I hope I'm wrong. But I think you have to balance the illness versus the damage to those that aren't ill or aren't going to get ill. It's not just a one or the other. Both people have to sit on that scale in some way in order to make the most educated decision. So anyway, I reckon that's about all I got to say today. It can't be just about one or the other. It has to be about both. I'm hoping that a lot of these, the blood serum testing, where they can test the body's immunity to the virus to determine if people have already had it, I'm hoping that rolls out en masse rapidly. Because if they sample a decent set of the population and determine that a lot of them have probably already had it, it's time to go back to work, folks. If 50-60% of the population has already had this thing and beat it, it's time to bite the bullet. People might get sick. You might have some people get sick, but once you have 70 to 80% infection and recovery rate, you've got herd immunity because a high percentage of them have it. They're not going to be able to, as soon as they get exposed to it, they're going to beat it. The virus is going to die. They're not able to transmit. And then transmission rates drop way down. So if you've got a high amount of people that have already been exposed and have the antibody, you're done. It's time to get everything going again. So that's my opinions. I'd love to hear yours. Like, share, comment, subscribe, notification bell, comment things that you want to hear my opinion on. I'd love to hear from you. Y'all stay safe out there. I hope you have a great Easter. I hope you're able to spend it with some family that might be closer, that you might have been around a little bit since then. I hope you're able to do something meaningful with your kids if you've got them. Don't really know what else to say aside from that. Thanks for tuning in, gang. Stay safe out there, and thanks for tuning in.